wow, this car's pretty quick. I have a new love. Hey guys, it's Glenn from glenscarcollection.com, and today we're driving a Porsche 997.2. So the .2 is the second generation Porsche 911. Let's go the opposite way of this traffic here. This is just a base model, just like my car is just a base model. So you don't get the 3.8, you get the 3.6, 345 horsepower instead of the 997. Let's accelerate first. Oh wow, this car's pretty quick. I have a new love for base model cars. This is rear drive, so it's essentially a Carrera 2 base model, 3.6 liter flat six, 345 horsepower. Now the advantage of this, you don't have the IMS bearing of the 997.1s that everybody's afraid of will take out your engine. Even though that's a pretty rare occurrence, it does affect some resale values. The .2 997s are worth a lot more than .1 997s. Now the .1 997S has a 3.8 liter, so it's more torquey, 355 horsepower. Wow, this car's a lot of fun. Wow, and what this car has a big advantage over my cars is that it has hydraulic steering. Oh wow. So it's still rear engine. Now, if you've driven old Porsches like my 993 Turbo, my 996, once we get to the 997 generation, it's kind of, that rear engine feel is kind of dialed out a little more. If you put a novice in this car who didn't know where the engine was, they may not know it's in the rear of a car behind the rear axle. Little acceleration here. There's that's the AMG GTS that you've already seen a review for on the channel. So advantage of this car, well, you get all the updates. You get an update to the infotainment system if you care about such things. The navigation unit is much better. You get LED lights. And again, you have a direct fuel injection engine, so you don't have to worry. Still rear end grip here as we come into the turns. So you don't have to worry at all about IMS problems. Now values, these cars sell, base models sell for about 50,000. S models are still 60 to 70,000, sometimes even more than that if you want a GTS variant. So it's a smart buy getting the base models at 50, and they're even more than the 997.1 S models, believe it or not. Biggest thing difference is this definitely feels a size smaller than my 991. You could definitely feel the difference in steering. So this is the last of the hydraulic steering. So a lot of people love these 997s, so I think they're a good buy right now. I really don't see them dropping because Porsches from now on are gonna have electric steering. It's gonna be harder and harder to find manuals. There's very few manuals in the 997.2 for two reasons. One, that's when PDK came out in 09. So most of them were spec'd with a PDK transmission. PDK isn't that great. If you're gonna go with PDK, I'm gonna unplug this radar detector. If you're gonna go with PDK, honestly, I would wait for the 991s. The PDK is much, much better. It's not that great in these cars. So I definitely go with a manual. And also that's when the economy tanked. These 09s actually came out in 08, and basically these cars sat at the dealership lodge. They were giving big discounts on S's and bases model cars during the Great Recession. So very few of them are made, and try finding a manual. It's probably 10 or 20% had a manual transmission, and these were some of the lowest modern 911 production numbers at the beginning of the 997.2 run. And that's why they're, for all those reasons combined, supply and demand and how good this car is, are reasons that there's very few of them on the road, and that's why they command top dollar. So now the base models, you could always tell, has the black gauges here. If this was an S, they'd be white gauges. And let me tell you something, this car isn't slow. An S would be torquier, certainly, and has more horsepower, but this car is not slow. It's not. I have a new love for base cars. I've always been the person that would say, oh, you got to get the S, you got to get the S. I don't want the car unless it's the S. And you know what? I don't say that anymore because these cars are so good. Even the base model is phenomenally better than whatever your favorite attainable car is. And they're attainable. For 50 grand, you can buy one of these for 45, 50, 55 grand. And you know what? It's going to be worth that price for a long time. And maintenance isn't too bad. They're, as long as you buy a highly maintained car with service records, I think you'll be just fine. Always rev match your downshifts. This car you could drive every day. It's so much more fun. So the owner of this car previously had a BMW M2, and he was Mr. BMW, just like I've always been Mr. BMW. And once he drove this car, he sold his M2 and bought this. So just saying how good of a car this is. And you think you got a great car, but any Porsche, essentially at any price point, even a $20,000 Boxster, is a phenomenal, phenomenal car. Now, we can't push it too hard here. It's not my car. It's a very cold morning. It's about 30 degrees. So we're gonna have to go easy. But this is a amazing car. All right. Very easy to heel toe downshift. Let's do an acceleration run here. It's quick. It is not slow. It's fast, guys. So what's the downside of this car? We went over it's phenomenal to drive. It really is not going to depreciate. So what are the downsides? Well, the biggest downside I mentioned before is just supply and demand. It's very hard to find one. Very hard to find a good one. People that own them are not going to give up these cars easily, so you're going to pay through the nose to get it. There are some dealers that will actually CPO some 997.2s, and guess what? You're going to pay probably about 10 grand more than they're worth to get that 2-year unlimited mileage CPO. Running costs, again, it's going to be more expensive than your average car because brakes and tires are expensive. This car, the base comes standard with 18-inch wheels, and this has the optional Sport Design 19-inch. This car is very easy to heel toe, and it is such a visceral driving experience. But the 997s are so good, and the suspension is so compliant, this can easily be your daily driver. You know, back in the day, they were kind of sold as daily drivers. If you wanted the hardcore version, you got the GT3. Again, a cold morning here, so we have to be careful. And these cars live in the turns. You don't have that much front end grip, but you have a ton of rear end grip, and that's how you have to drive these cars. So if you're a good driver and you've closed your eyes, you'll know immediately, don't drive with your eyes closed, but you'll know immediately you're in a rear engine 911 if you have any experience with these cars. And it's so distinctive that's why we're kind of all addicted to the driving experience. If you can't afford a 911, don't fret it. The Cayman and the Boxster are phenomenal cars with their mid-engine layout, and I think they're better for the novice driver because you can go into turns quicker and you're not so dependent on that rear end grip. The rear end grip is great if you know how to use it. So 911 rewards good driving. All right, guys, I'm gonna turn off here and turn around so I'm not behind this slow car and slow BMW, for God's sakes. And so I'm gonna end the video here. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and definitely check out a 997. To me, The dot 2 versions are the best. So the 996, I like the dot 2s. The 997s, I like the dot 2s. And me personally, I bought one. The 991s, I like the dot 2s. I always think the second generation is the best generation. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.